Hi everyone, my name is Joel and I'm from Niamey Zoo. And today we have a little friend with us today, and this is a blue-tongued skink. His name is Jub Jub, and Jub Jub is very popular here at the zoo in our education programs and the classes that we teach. And you can see when he sticks his tongue out, it is actually quite blue. And a lot of people ask the question, why is their tongue so blue, and what help would that provide that animal in the wild? Now, of course, when we think about bright colors, many animals have bright colors, but when we look at Jub Jub's body here, we don't see very many bright colors, do we? No, this is mostly camouflage coloring that he would use to blend into some of the desert and scrubland areas of Australia. And of course, when we think about Australia and we look all the way up here, we see that there's lots of animals that are from Australia that are very unique to Australia. And so that's the only place where these guys are from. And so when we look at that body and we see all of his camouflage coloring and we consider that it's not brightly colored at all, then why would its tongue be so blue, right? So when we think about other bright colored animals, think about something that would be yellow and black, maybe with some stripes, right? Here in our state, we might think of a bumblebee, right? And so they have bright yellow stripes on their black body, and that's what we call a warning color. And so we even think of monarch butterflies with their bright orange wings, with their black edges and things. Those are also warning colors because we know that bees could possibly sting, and butterflies actually have some poison in them. And to some birds, that would be very, very distasteful for them to try and eat those because eating brightly colored butterflies like that could harm them. And so they learn from those colors to leave them alone. Now, of course, if we look at the tongue of the blue-tongued skink and we see that it's bright blue, then could that be a way to let some other animals know that maybe this is not an animal that you want to mess with? Right? So if it were in the wild and say a dingo, a big Australian dingo, which is like a wild dog, came up to eat a lizard like this because it looks pretty tasty, if this lizard stuck its tongue out with its big blue tongue and it went bah like that, its blue tongue would actually make another animal look at it and go, maybe I shouldn't eat you. So that's part of what it does. But they are pretty special, though, in the way they stick out their tongue, because we can stick out our tongues in a few ways, right? We can make a skinny tongue and we can go like that. Or, of course, we can make a fat tongue and we go like that. Now, when we stick our tongue out at other people, sometimes we're saying, leave us alone. Well, that's kind of the same idea for him, except that he does it in a way that is way, way bigger than ours. So we see how wide his head is here, right? And if we look really closely at his head, we can see that the edges of his mouth come all the way over to his ears, right? So if the edges of the mouth come all the way to the ears, he can open his mouth all the way that wide. Now, his tongue is super special because when he sticks it out, he's showing you kind of the skinny tongue. But if he were like really nervous or anything, he can actually make his tongue as wide as his whole head. So about where my fingers are, he can widen his entire tongue out. And if it's bright blue and sticking out at an animal like that, that's a big bright blue display. And that is what makes other animals stay away from them, because when you see that wide tongue sticking out and they tilt their head back so that they can see it, then they're like, I don't think so. That's not something I'm going to snack on today, because other animals learn that bright colors can harm them. But it doesn't harm the skink at all. In fact, the skink is pulling something over on those other animals because this skink, he's not poisonous or anything. So he's kind of fooling the other animals into thinking that he's more dangerous than he is. So when we think about warning colors help protect that animal from being eaten by other animals. But the bigger question is can warning colors help protect the animal where it lives? Not really. That's something that only we as people can do. So when we think about the lizards that we have here in our state, because we actually have skinks in our state too, but they're not quite this large. Now, the Australian lizards are quite large, whereas our skinks, here's a skeleton of a skink, and this is about how big ours are. So when we look at the size of this skink versus that skeleton, we can see that our skinks locally are actually quite small. But we should still protect them too, because they eat insects and things for us. but protecting where they come from, protecting our water, protecting our forests, protecting those places, that's not something that the lizard can do very well. So that falls to each one of us. We need to be able to keep our areas clean and free from litter. If you're hiking in a park or something, or even just hiking in the forest in your own backyard, if you see litter, please pick it up. That's not something the animals should eat. And of course, we need to protect all of our rivers from things like plastic going in there. So please make sure that if you're using plastic bottles, you're recycling those, or more importantly, use a refillable bottle so we don't throw those away, because that can impact all of the animals that live in that forest and of course in the rivers around that forest. And of course, because we live around the great Mississippi River, we have to think about all of the things that we possibly would throw out that could end up there in the liver, into the river and affect animals, right? So please make sure that you take care of your local habitat, because you're also taking care of the habitat for many animals like these skinks. Thank you so much. We hope you have a great day.